The morning sun on planet Kepler 442b cast strange purple shadows across the rocky landscape. Park Ji-hoon moved like a ghost between the tall stone formations. His black tactical suit helped him blend with the dark rocks while he studied the alien mining operation through his scope. The former Navy SEAL had been on this planet for 3 days now, watching and learning. The mission was simple: scout the alien base and report back to Earth Command about their activities. Nobody expected him to make contact, just gather information and get out quietly. Park. Ji-hoon crouched behind a boulder and adjusted his equipment. The aliens below looked like giant lizards walking on 2 legs. They stood at least 8 feet tall with thick, scaly skin. That looked like natural armor. Their eyes glowed yellow in the dim light, and they carried weapons that hummed with energy. These Vorthak soldiers moved with military precision around their mining equipment. Large machines dug deep into the planet, surface pulling out glowing crystals that got loaded into transport containers. Ji-hoon counted at least 30 aliens working the site, with more guarding the perimeter. The SEAL checked his watch. He had been observing for 6 hours and gathered enough data for his report. It was time to move back to his hidden ship and return to Earth. But as he started to retreat, something went wrong. A loose rock shifted under his boot. The small sound echoed off the stone walls around him. Ji-hoon froze, but it was too late. 3 massive Vorthak warriors appeared from behind nearby rocks, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. The aliens had been hunting him. Captain Grektar was the largest of the 3, with old battle scars covering his scaled face. His armor was decorated with bones and metal pieces from different species across the galaxy. The translation device hanging from his thick neck crackled to life as he spoke. "Look what we caught sneaking around our operation," Grektar said with a growling laugh. "Another primitive species thinking they can spy on the mighty Vorthak Empire." Park Ji-hoon remained calm even with 3 alien warriors pointing energy weapons at him. His SEAL training had prepared him for capture situations. He studied his captors, looking for weaknesses while keeping his hands visible and non-threatening. The second alien Vorketh stepped closer and poked at Ji-hoon's tactical gear with curiosity. "This one has interesting equipment, Captain. Maybe he is not as primitive as the others we have captured." "All aliens look primitive compared to us," the third warrior, Zeknal, replied. "But this one might provide good entertainment in the arena. The crowd always enjoys watching new species fight for their lives." Ji-hoon understood they were talking about him like he was an animal caught for sport. The translation devices worked both ways so he could follow their conversation. He filed away every detail while planning his next moves. "Captain." Grektar grabbed Ji-hoon's shoulder with a clawed hand that could crush bone. "You will come with us, little spy. Your species will learn what happens when they interfere with Vorthak business." They forced Ji-hoon to walk toward their landing craft, which sat hidden in a canyon nearby. The ship was sleek and black with weapons mounted along its hull. Other Vorthak soldiers waited by the entrance. Their amber eyes followed the human prisoner with interest and amusement. "Captain, what species is this one?" asked a younger soldier. "I have never seen anything like it before. The database will tell us after we scan it." Grektar replied, "But look how small and weak it appears. No natural weapons or armor. This will die quickly in the arena." The aliens pushed Ji-hoon up the ramp into their ship. The interior was designed for beings much larger than humans. Everything from the ceiling height to the door controls was built for 8-foot-tall warriors. Ji-hoon had to duck under some overhead pipes as they moved deeper into the vessel. They threw him into a holding cell with other prisoners from different planets. A blue-skinned alien with 4 arms sat in one corner while a creature covered in fur and spikes paced near the back wall. All of them looked defeated and scared. The cell door sealed with a hiss of escaping air. Park Ji-hoon sat down calmly and began studying his new environment. The walls were made of some kind of metal alloy that would be difficult to break. The door had no visible lock mechanism from the inside, but Jihoon was not planning to escape yet. He needed more information about where they were taking him and what kind of facility they would end up. His dog tags clinked softly against his chest as he leaned back against the wall. The blue alien noticed him and spoke in broken Galactic standard. "You are new here. I am Blex from the water world Aquanis. These Vorthak captured me 2 months ago. They take us to their arena world where we fight. For their entertainment." "Arena world?" Jihoon asked, keeping his voice calm and interested. "Yes. The Vorthak think they are the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They prove this by watching other species fight and die for sport. Most prisoners last. Only 1 or 2 battles before the monsters kill them." The furry alien stopped pacing and looked at Jihoon with sad eyes. "I am Gruff from the Forest Moon. Verdania, I have been prisoner for 4 months. They make us fight each other and against their war beasts. The crowd cheers when we die." Park Jihoon listened to their stories, while his tactical mind processed the information. An arena meant crowds of enemies, but also opportunities. A public space with predictable routines and multiple entry points, areas designed for combat which could work to his advantage if he planned carefully. "How many prisoners are usually in the arena at one time?" he asked. "Maybe 50 or 60 from all different worlds," Blex replied, "but they keep us separated. Until fight time, they do not want us working together or planning escapes." The ship jumped to hyperspace with a low thrumming sound that ran through the hull. Jihoon felt the familiar sensation of faster-than-light travel. Earth had developed similar technology, but these alien ships seemed more advanced. Hours passed as they traveled through hyperspace. The Vorthak guards brought food and water, but ignored any attempts at conversation. They treated the prisoners like livestock being transported to market. During the long journey, Park Jihoon began subtle exercises to keep his body ready for action. He stretched carefully and did mental preparation techniques his instructors had taught him years ago at Bud's training. The other prisoners watched him with curiosity. Most aliens they had seen either panicked when captured or fell into despair, but this human remained calm and alert, like he was planning something instead of accepting his fate. "What is your species called?" Gruff asked. "You do not seem afraid like the rest of us were when first captured." "Human from the planet Earth," Jihoon replied, "and I have been in worse situations than this." It was not entirely true, but Park Jihoon had survived Hell Week multiple combat deployments and missions behind enemy lines. He had been trained to never give up, no matter how impossible the odds appeared. The dog tags around his neck felt heavier than usual as he thought about his oath to protect and serve. Those small pieces of metal contained his name, rank, and service number. They identified him as a member of one of Earth's most elite military units, but the aliens had no way of knowing what those tags meant. They saw only another weak prisoner to throw into their arena for entertainment. They had no idea they had captured a warrior trained to turn any situation into an opportunity for victory. As the ship continued toward the arena world, Park Jihoon began planning not just his own survival, but the liberation of every prisoner in that cell. The Vorthak Empire was about to learn that humans were very different from the other species they had conquered. The metal tags clinked softly as he moved, reminding him of the promise he had made when he first put them on. He would never abandon his mission, and he would never leave anyone behind. That included alien prisoners he had just met on a ship traveling toward an arena designed for Death Park. Jihoon closed his eyes and began to plan. The massive arena on Vorthak Prime rose like a metal mountain from the desert landscape. Park Jihoon stared through the transport ship window at the enormous structure that could hold 50,000 screaming aliens. The Colosseum stretched across, several miles with towers and platforms built into its walls. Captain Grektar shoved the human prisoner forward as they unloaded from the ship. "Welcome to your new home, little spy. This is where weak species come to die for our entertainment. The Holding area beneath the arena floor was a maze of cells and corridors carved from solid rock. Hundreds of prisoners from dozens of different worlds sat behind energy barriers, waiting for their turn to fight. The air smelled of fierce sweat and something else Park Ji-hoon could not identify. Guards pushed him into a large communal cell with about 20 other beings. Most looked broken and hopeless. Their eyes stared at nothing while they waited for death in the arena above. The sound of distant cheering echoed through the stone walls as some poor creature fought for its life. A human woman approached Park Ji-hoon with careful steps. She was thin and dirty, but her eyes still showed intelligence and determination. Her black hair was tied back with strips of fabric torn from her prison clothes. "You are human," she said in Korean, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am Kim Min-ji. I have been trapped here for 3 months. How did you end up in this place?" Park Ji-hoon looked around to make sure. The guards were not listening before answering. "Park Ji-hoon, Navy SEAL reconnaissance mission went bad. What can you tell me about this arena system?" Kim Min-ji sat down beside him on the cold stone floor. "I was a xenobiologist studying plant life on frontier worlds when the Vorthak captured my research team. They killed the others but kept me alive because I could speak several galactic languages." She pointed to different groups of aliens around the cell. "The blue ones are from water worlds, and they die quickly in desert environments. Those furry creatures are from cold planets and cannot handle the heat. The Vorthak study each species to find the best ways to kill them slowly." "What about the fights themselves?" Ji-hoon asked. "How does the system work? New prisoners fight wild animals first. Then if they survive, they face other prisoners or mechanical beasts. The crowd bets on how long each fighter will last. Most die in their first or second match." Kim Min-ji explained how the Vorthak had conquered hundreds of worlds by finding weak species and overwhelming them with superior technology and numbers. They used the arena to prove their dominance by watching other beings suffer and die. "The worst part is, they think this makes them great warriors," she continued. "They sit in their comfortable seats and cheer while real fighters die in the sand. They have never faced a species that could challenge them in fair combat." Park Ji-hoon studied the other prisoners while listening to her explanation. Most had given up hope and just waited for their turn to die. But a few still showed signs of fight in their eyes. These were the ones he could work with. "Tell me about the guards and their routines," he said quietly. Kim Min-ji smiled for the first time since he arrived. "You are planning something, are you not? I can see it in your eyes. You still think you can get out of here alive. Not just me. All of us." She stared at him with surprise. "That is impossible. The Vorthak are too strong and too many. Even if we could escape the holding cells, there are thousands of guards between us and the surface. I have been in impossible situations before," Park Ji-hoon replied. "The first step is gathering information and building a team. Tell me everything you know about this place." Over the next several hours, Kim Min-ji shared her observations about the arena complex. She had used her scientific training to study guard patterns, shift changes, and the layout of the underground facilities. Her knowledge would be invaluable for any escape plan. The guards came from 3 different Vorthak military units that rotated duties every 8 hours. They were disciplined but overconfident because no prisoner had ever successfully escaped from the arena. The energy barriers on the cells were controlled from a central security station 2 levels up. The guards have a blind spot near the medical bay, Kim Min-ji explained. Prisoners who get injured in fights are taken there for treatment before being sent back to die in the next match. Park Ji-hoon filed away every detail while forming a plan in his mind. He needed to identify which prisoners still had fight left in them and begin building trust and cooperation, the Obayas. Vorthak had made a critical error by putting fighters from different worlds together. That evening, as alien guards patrolled the corridors, Park Ji-hoon began moving carefully around the cell. He approached prisoners who still showed alertness and determination, a four-armed warrior from a jungle world, a crystalline being that could change its body density. Two furry creatures with sharp claws and quick reflexes. "Listen to me carefully," he whispered to each group. "I am going to teach you how humans fight wars. We do not just survive, we win." The four-armed alien, whose name was Krex, looked at him with skepticism. "You are just another prisoner waiting to die like the rest of us. What makes you think you can do anything against the—" Vorthak Park Ji-hoon showed them his dog tags. "These identify me as a member of Earth's most elite warriors. I have been trained to never surrender and never leave anyone behind. That includes all of you." He began teaching basic hand-to-hand combat, techniques using movements that worked for different body types. The crystalline being could become harder or softer, which made it perfect for absorbing impacts. The furry creatures were naturally fast and could learn stealth approaches. Kim Min-ji watched with growing amazement as prisoners who had been broken and hopeless began standing straighter and paying attention. For the first time in months, she saw something she thought was gone forever: hope. The Vorthak think they are superior because they have better weapons and technology. Park Ji-hoon explained to his growing group of students, but they have never learned to fight as a team. Every battle they win is because they have more ships or bigger guns. He taught them about flanking, maneuvers, coordinated attacks, and how to use the environment as a weapon. The arena had sandstone walls and obstacles that could be turned into advantages with proper tactics. When I fought on Earth, we had a saying, "No one fights alone." That means we watch each other's backs and we all go home together, or none of us do. The alien prisoners listened with growing interest as this human warrior explained concepts they had never heard before. Most of their species fought as individuals or in simple groups. But humans had developed warfare into a science of teamwork and mutual support. By the third day, Park Ji-hoon had identified 12 prisoners who could form the core of a fighting unit. Kim Min-ji became his second in command, helping translate instructions for species that could not understand Galactic standard. The group began practicing together during the few hours when guards were less attentive. The Vorthak guards noticed that prisoner behavior was changing, but they could not understand what was happening. Beings who had been defeated and ready to die were now standing straighter, working together and showing signs of organization. "Something is different about the new human prisoner," reported Guard Captain Thexalar. To his superior, the other prisoners gather around him and they practice strange movements together, Arena Master. Vexthul reviewed the security footage with interest. "Let them play their games. It will make no difference when they face the war. Beasts in the arena. All aliens die the same way when our champions tear them apart." But Park Ji-hoon was not preparing his team to fight war beasts. He was building something the Vorthak had never seen in their arena before: a coordinated military unit that could think and act as one organism instead of terrified individuals fighting for their lives. His dog tags caught the light as he moved among the prisoners, teaching and encouraging them. The small metal rectangles meant nothing to the Vorthak guards, but they represented something that would soon change everything about their arena. Earth had sent more than just a spy to their empire. They had sent a warrior who knew how to turn desperate people into soldiers, and soldiers working together could accomplish things that seemed impossible when fighting alone. The revolution was about to begin. The arena crowd roared like thunder as Park Ji-hoon walked through the tunnel toward the fighting pit. 50,000 Vorthak voices echoed off the stone walls, creating a sound that would terrify most beings, but the Navy SEAL had heard enemy fire, and explosions that were much louder than alien cheering. Above him, the announcer's voice boomed across the Colosseum in the harsh Vorthak language. "Citizens of the Empire, today we present a pathetic specimen from a primitive world called Earth. Watch as our mighty arena champion tears this weak creature apart for your entertainment." The tunnel opened onto bright sand under artificial suns that heated the air to uncomfortable levels. Park Ji-hoon stepped into the arena wearing basic gladiator gear that included light armor, a short sword, and a round shield. The equipment was designed for beings much larger than humans, so it fit poorly on his smaller frame. Around the arena walls, massive screens showed close-up images of his face, while Vorthak commentators made jokes about his size and appearance. The crowd pointed and laughed at the small human who barely reached their shoulder height. "Look at those tiny muscles," one noble shouted from the expensive seats. "This will be over in seconds. I bet it runs in circles, screaming like the last few prisoners," another replied while placing wagers on how long Park Ji-hoon would survive. But something caught the light around the human's neck as he moved across the sand. Those small metal pieces hanging from a chain reflected the arena lights in a way that drew attention from viewers in the front rows. Park Ji-hoon ignored the crowd noise and focused on studying his environment. The arena floor was covered in sand that would shift under his feet. Stone walls rose 30 feet on all sides with no handholds or ledges for climbing. Several large rocks and wooden barriers were scattered around the fighting area. At the far end of the arena, a massive gate began grinding open. With the sound of heavy machinery, the crowd cheered louder as they anticipated the appearance of their champion pit beast. The Ravenclaw burst from its cage with a shriek that made the stadium walls vibrate. It stood 8 feet tall on 6 powerful legs with claws designed to slice through armor and bone. Its head was mostly teeth, and its eyes glowed red with artificial enhancements. Most prisoners would panic when facing such a monster and die within 10 seconds. But Park Ji-hoon moved with calm precision toward the center of the arena. His years of SEAL training had taught him to analyze threats quickly and find weaknesses in any opponent. The creature charged across the sand with surprising speed for something so large. Its claws threw up clouds of dust as it aimed directly for the small human who seemed frozen in place. At the last second, Park Ji-hoon rolled to his left, using the creature's momentum against it. The Ravenclaw's claws scraped against stone instead of flesh. As it crashed into the arena wall, the crowd's cheering turned to murmurs of surprise. "Did you see that?" a Vorthak warrior asked his companion. "The human actually dodged instead of standing there screaming." The beast spun around faster than something. That size should be able to move. But Park Ji-hoon was already running toward the scattered obstacles, using his smaller size to navigate between rocks and barriers. The Ravenclaw had to go around or over them, which slowed its pursuit. When the creature jumped over a large boulder, Park Ji-hoon slid underneath and struck upward with his sword. The blade found a gap in the beast's natural armor and drew dark blood. The crowd gasped at the first successful hit by a prisoner in many fights. The Ravenclaw roared in pain and anger as it landed badly on the other side of the obstacle. Its enhanced reflexes made it spin around immediately, but the human was no longer where it expected to find him. Park Ji-hoon had already moved to his next position, using the arena terrain to stay ahead of his opponent. He studied the creature's attack patterns while avoiding its claws. Each time it charged, he led it into positions where its size became a disadvantage instead of an advantage. "This human knows how to fight," a Vorthak officer observed from the command box. "Most prisoners just run in panic until the beast catches them, Arena Master." Vexthul leaned forward in his seat with growing interest. "Yes, there is something different about this one. It moves like a trained warrior, not a terrified civilian." The battle continued for several minutes as Park Ji-hoon used hit-and-run tactics to wear down his opponent. The crowd's laughter had completely stopped as they watched tactical combat instead of a quick execution. The human was actually fighting back effectively. The Ravenclaw was bleeding from multiple wounds and becoming slower from blood loss. Its enhanced muscles were powerful but not efficient. Park Ji-hoon waited for the right moment, when the creature would be off balance from its own aggression. When the beast lunged forward with all its strength, trying to pin him against the arena wall, Park Ji-hoon dropped to one knee and drove his sword upward into the creature's throat. The blade found the gap between armored plates and penetrated deep into vital organs. The Ravenclaw's forward momentum carried it past the human and into the stone wall with a crash that shook dust from the ancient blocks. It tried to turn around for another attack, but dark blood poured from the wound in its neck. Park Ji-hoon rolled away as the massive creature collapsed onto the sand. Its enhanced muscles twitched a few times before going still. The arena fell completely silent as 50,000 Vorthaks stared at the impossible scene before them. A small human had just killed their champion pit beast, using nothing but basic weapons and tactical thinking. No prisoner had ever defeated a Ravenclaw in single combat. The creature had been designed specifically to be unbeatable by any alien species they had encountered. Park Ji-hoon stood over his fallen opponent, breathing hard, but still alert for additional threats. His light armor was torn in several places, and he had minor cuts from the creature's claws, but he was very much alive and victorious. The silence stretched for long seconds before the crowd erupted in a mixture of confusion, excitement, and disbelief. Some Vorthak cheered for the incredible display of combat skill they had just witnessed. Others sat in stunned silence, trying to understand what they had seen. In the expensive noble section, several important figures leaned forward to get a better look at this unusual human warrior. The small metal pieces around his neck caught the light again as he turned to acknowledge the crowd. "What are those things he wears?" asked General Morcon, the military commander responsible for arena security. "Some kind of identification markers," replied Arena Master Vexathul. "We should have our scientists examine them after the fight." But Park Ji-hoon was not finished yet. He walked to the center of the arena and raised his sword in salute to the fallen creature. Then he turned to face the crowd with calm confidence. Showing no fear despite being surrounded by 50,000 potential enemies. The gesture surprised many Vorthak who expected aliens to cower in fear after their first victory. Instead, this human showed respect for his opponent and readiness for whatever challenge came next. "Citizens of the Empire," the announcer's voice crackled over the communication system. "The human has achieved victory against our arena champion. This is unprecedented in the history of our Colosseum." The crowd's reaction was mixed as some nobles began placing new bets on how long this warrior might survive against increasingly dangerous opponents. Others whispered among themselves about what this victory might mean for their assumptions about human capabilities. Guards approached to escort Park Ji-hoon back to the holding cells. The metal tags around his neck swayed with his movement. Several Vorthak officials made notes about those mysterious objects that seemed so important to the human fighter arena master. Vexthul spoke into his communication device. "Bring the human's equipment to the science division for analysis. I want to know everything about those metal pieces he refuses to remove." Back in the holding cells, Kim Min-ji and the other prisoners had watched the entire fight on screens that showed arena matches. The human woman grabbed Park Ji-hoon's shoulders as soon as he returned. "That was incredible," she said in Korean. "I have never seen anyone fight like that against a Ravenclaw. How did you move so fast?" "SEAL training teaches you to use your brain as much as your muscles," Park Ji-hoon replied. "That creature was strong and fast, but it could not think tactically. It just attacked with brute force." The other prisoners gathered around him with new respect and hope in their eyes. For the first time since their capture, they had seen one of their own not just survive, but actually win against the Vorthak's best arena champion. "What happens next?" asked Krex, the four-armed warrior. "They will send something even more dangerous in the next fight." Park Ji-hoon smiled as he cleaned his weapons. "Then we will be ready for it. The first step was showing them that humans can fight. Now we start showing them what humans can do when we work together." His dog tags clinked softly as he moved among the prisoners continuing their training. The small metal rectangles had caught more attention than he realized, and would soon become the focus of much more interest from Vorthak. Officials who were beginning to understand they had captured something far more dangerous than a simple spy. Dr. Yethka stared at the translation results on her laboratory screen with growing alarm. The Vorthak scientist had analyzed hundreds of alien artifacts over her long career, but these simple metal rectangles contained information that changed everything she thought she knew about the human species. The pieces were small and appeared primitive compared to Vorthak technology, but the symbols etched into their surface told a story that made her scaled hands tremble as she typed her urgent. "Report to Arena Master Vexthul. Master, you must see these findings immediately," she said into her communication device. "The metal objects worn by the human prisoner are not simple identification markers. They contain military information that indicates we have made a serious tactical error." Arena Master. Vexthul arrived at the science laboratory within minutes, his cybernetic eye glowing as it focused on the translated data displayed across multiple screens. His expression grew darker as he read each line of decoded information. "Explain this to me clearly," he commanded. "What exactly do these symbols mean?" Dr. Yethka pulled up the detailed analysis showing each piece of data extracted from the dog tags. The first line identifies him as Park Ji-hoon, followed by numbers that appear to be a unique military identifier. The next section shows biological information including blood type and medical data. She highlighted another section of the translation. But this is the critical information master. These symbols identify him as what humans call a Navy SEAL. According to our databases from Reconnaissance of Earth, this represents their most elite military unit. Elite how? Vexthul asked, though something in his voice suggested. He was beginning to understand the implications. Our intelligence reports indicate that Navy SEALs undergo training so intense that most human candidates cannot survive it. They are taught advanced combat techniques, underwater operations, parachute, insertion behind enemy lines, and tactical planning that exceeds most species we have encountered. The Arena Master's good eye widened as he processed this information, while his cybernetic replacement focused on additional data streaming across the screens. "Are you telling me that we did not capture some random human explorer or merchant? We captured one of their finest trained warriors?" "Yes, Master. And if this represents the standard quality of Earth's military personnel, we may need to completely reassess our expansion plans toward their solar system." Dr. Yethka brought up additional files that their long-range scouts had gathered about human military capabilities. The data was incomplete, but showed a species that had developed warfare into an advanced science with specialized units for every type of combat environment. "Look at these historical records," she continued. "Humans have been fighting wars against each other for thousands of years. They have experience with every form of combat, from individual fighting to massive fleet battles. Their entire civilization has been shaped by military conflict." Arena. Master Vexthul studied footage of the humans' victory against the Ravenclaw with new understanding. Now he could see the tactical thinking behind every movement. Park Ji-hoon had not just survived through luck or desperation. He had analyzed his opponent and systematically exploited its weaknesses. How many more like him could Earth potentially field the arena? Master asked. Unknown, Master. But if their military training can produce warriors capable of defeating our arena champions while using primitive weapons, we may be facing our first real challenge in centuries. The implications hit both aliens simultaneously. The Vorthak Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds by identifying weak species and overwhelming them with superior numbers and technology. But everything about Park Ji-hoon suggested that humans might be fundamentally different from other races. "They had encountered, Master. There is more," Dr. Yethka said, pulling up additional analysis. These dog tags also contain what appears to be a religious designation. It says Christian, which according to our cultural databases indicates belief in concepts like sacrifice for others and never abandoning fellow warriors. So he fights not just for himself, but for ideological reasons that make surrender impossible. Exactly. Master. And look at the prisoner behavior reports from the holding cells. Since this human arrived, other aliens have been organizing and training together. Our guards report unusual coordination and discipline that was never present before. Arena Master Vex Thul reviewed security footage showing Park Ji-hoon teaching combat techniques to prisoners from multiple species. The human moved among them like a natural leader, inspiring hope in beings who had given up all thoughts of resistance. He is building an army inside our own arena, the Arena Master realized, using methods our species has never encountered. Meanwhile, in the holding cells far below, Park Ji-hoon continued training his growing group of fighters. He had no idea that his identity had been discovered or that it was causing panic in the highest levels of Arena. Command Kim Min-ji watched him work with prisoners from a dozen different worlds, teaching them human military tactics adapted for their various physical capabilities. The 4 armed Kreks was learning flanking maneuvers while the crystalline being practiced absorbing and redirecting impact forces. "You are changing everything down here," she observed. "These prisoners were ready to die a week ago. Now they believe they might actually have a chance to live. Everyone deserves a chance to fight for their freedom." Park Ji-hoon replied, as he helped a furry creature from a cold world practice stealth movements. "The Vorthak think they can break our spirits by putting us in cages, but they do not understand what humans learned long ago." "What is that?" "That the strongest prison is the one you build in your own mind. Once you break free of that, the physical walls become much less important." He touched his dog tags unconsciously as he spoke. The metal felt warm against his skin from body heat and constant contact. They had been with him through every mission, every challenge, and every moment when giving up would have been easier than continuing. "These tags remind me of who I am and what I promised to do," he explained. To Kim Min-ji, "Every human soldier wears them so that if we die far from home, people will know we served with honor. But you do not plan to die here, do you?" Park Ji-hoon smiled. "Death comes for everyone eventually, but not today, and not in this place. I have work to finish first." Above them in the command levels, Arena Master Vex Thul was having an emergency communication with Fleet Admiral Gosmore, the military leader responsible for the sector containing Earth's solar system. Appeared on the holographic display with obvious concern. "Admiral, we have a problem," Vex Thul reported. "The human we captured is not a civilian explorer. Our scientists have confirmed he is a member of Earth's most elite military unit. If this represents their standard warrior quality, we need to halt all expansion plans toward their system." Fleet Admiral Gosmore studied the dog tag translation data with growing alarm. The Vorthak military had never encountered a species that could produce individual fighters capable of tactical thinking advanced enough to defeat their arena champions. "How reliable is this intelligence analysis?" the Admiral asked. "Dr. Yethka is our best xenobiologist and cultural expert, Master. The translation is accurate and the implications are clear. We may have encountered our first peer competitor in military capability, or possibly even our superior," the Admiral added grimly. "A species that trains individual soldiers to this level might be capable of things we cannot imagine. Send me all data immediately. I need to brief the High Command about this development." The communication ended, leaving Arena Master Vex Thul staring at security footage of Park Ji-hoon teaching alien prisoners to work as coordinated military units. The human's dog tags caught the light each time he moved between groups, explaining tactics that the Vorthak had never seen. "What have we captured?" he whispered to himself. The answer was becoming clearer with each passing hour. They had not captured a simple spy or explorer. They had taken prisoner a representative of a warrior culture that might be capable of challenging the Vorthak Empire's dominance of this section of the galaxy, and that human warrior was currently turning their own arena into a training ground for revolution, using methods that had been developed on a world where warfare was both an art and a science passed down through generations of professional soldiers. The small metal tags that seemed so primitive contained the identity of someone who could potentially change the balance of power across multiple star systems. The Vorthak were about to learn that some species should never be underestimated, especially those that wore their warrior status on simple metal rectangles hanging around their necks. Park Ji-hoon's dog tags had revealed more than just his name and service number. They had exposed the existence of a military tradition that the Vorthak Empire was not prepared to face in open. Combat the Revolution was building momentum, and its leader carried the proof of his credentials in two small pieces of metal that would soon become symbols of hope for every prisoner who had ever dreamed of freedom. News of the human Navy SEAL spread through the Vorthak command structure like wildfire. Arena Master Vexathul immediately contacted Fleet Admiral Gazmor, the military leader responsible for the sector containing Earth's solar system. The conversation took place over secure quantum communication channels, but the implications were staggering. "Admiral, we may have made a serious tactical error," Vexthul reported. "The human we captured isn't a civilian explorer. Our scientists have confirmed he's a member of Earth's most elite military unit. If this represents the standard quality of their warriors, we need to reassess our expansion plans toward their system." Fleet Admiral Gazmor reviewed the translated dog tag information with growing alarm. The Vorthak Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds by identifying weak species and overwhelming them with superior numbers and technology. But everything about Park Ji-hoon suggested that humans might be far more dangerous than initial surveys had indicated. "How many more like him could Earth potentially field?" the Admiral asked. "Unknown, sir. But if their military training can produce soldiers capable of defeating our arena champions while using primitive weapons, we may be facing our first real challenge in centuries." Back in the arena, Ji-hoon continued his winning streak while secretly organizing other prisoners. Kim Minji had used her scientific knowledge to help him understand alien biology, making him even more effective against different species. Together, they had begun training other prisoners in human military tactics. The Vorthak guards noticed changes in prisoner behavior, but couldn't understand what was happening. Prisoners who had been broken and hopeless were now standing straighter, working together, and showing signs of organized planning. It was subtle, but experienced military minds could see the difference. What the Vorthak didn't realize was that Ji-hoon wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was building an army inside their own arena, using techniques developed by Earth's special forces to create effective fighting units from desperate people. His dog tags weren't just identification anymore. They had become a symbol of hope for every prisoner who had given up on ever seeing freedom again. The empire that had never faced serious resistance was about to learn why humans had earned their reputation as warriors throughout their own violent history. The final arena match was supposed to be Park Ji-hoon's execution disguised as entertainment. Arena Master Vexthul had decided the human was becoming too dangerous and influential among other prisoners. They released their most deadly creation, a cybernetically enhanced war beast that had never lost a battle. But Ji-hoon wasn't fighting alone anymore. Kim Minji and 12 other prisoners had hidden weapons and positioned themselves around the arena. When the mechanical monster charged, they executed a coordinated assault that showcased human military tactics the Vorthak had never encountered. The crowd watched in amazement as the prisoners worked together with precision timing and tactical awareness. They used diversionary attacks, flanking maneuvers, and coordinated strikes that overwhelmed even the enhanced war beast. It was a display of teamwork and strategic thinking that no other species in the arena had ever demonstrated. As the mechanical creature fell, the entire Colosseum erupted in chaos. Some Vorthak cheered for the incredible display of combat skill. Others realized they were witnessing something that threatened their entire understanding of galactic hierarchy. Arena guards rushed onto the sand, but the prisoners had formed a defensive circle around Ji-hoon. Fleet Admiral Gosmore himself appeared in the arena's command box, having traveled specifically to witness this human phenomenon. As security forces surrounded the prisoners, he raised his hand to stop them. The entire arena fell silent as his amplified voice rang out. "Human warrior, I am Fleet Admiral Gosmore of the Vorthak Empire. Your identification markers indicate you serve something called a Navy SEAL. Explain to me what this means." Ji-hoon stood tall, his dog tags catching the arena lights as he looked up at the massive alien commander. "It means I swore an oath to protect innocent people from those who would harm them. It means I was trained to never give up, never surrender, and never leave anyone behind. And it means that Earth has thousands more just like me." The arena remained completely silent as the implications sank in. Fleet Admiral Gosmore realized that the Vorthak Empire had encountered something they had never faced before, a species that produced natural warriors with unbreakable spirits and tactical minds, capable of turning any situation to their advantage. "Release all the prisoners," the Admiral commanded, "and prepare a diplomatic vessel for the human system. We need to establish contact with Earth's government immediately." As the cell doors opened and prisoners walked free for the first time, in months or years, Park Ji-hoon's dog tags had accomplished something no weapon could have achieved. They had forced an entire galactic empire to recognize that humanity was not a species to be conquered, but rather one that demanded respect. Through strength, courage, and the unbreakable bonds between warriors who never abandoned their mission or each other.